What up? Welcome to another episode of the Dealer Talk Podcast. This is your host, Herb Anderson. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm very, very excited for today's session, talking to none other than Mr. Dane Saville from Reunion Marketing. What up, Dane? How are you, dude?
Doing pretty well. How about you, Herb? I'm excited as well, so I'm glad to have you have me on here today.
Yeah, man. I've been obviously we've been following each other's content online, and dude, I really dig your stuff, man. You know all things digital.
Yeah, I try. I want to claim to know all things digital. I know all things digital to a certain extent, but we definitely have people behind the scenes feeding me to what the deal is. So.
Yeah, but you know what, dude? Like, it's interesting because things have gotten so, I don't want to say complex, but that, like, it's just for lack of a better term. They've kind of gotten that way, and I don't know. It's just like I feel like we're at a different level now. So I was having a conversation with a general manager recently, and he was talking about, and he made a good point. He's like, I don't know why the expectation is that general managers or leaders, for that matter, within the dealership have to be these, these high techy type of individuals, data people,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I can certainly resonate with that because, some crazy stuff out there these days.
Yeah, when I first started sort of producing like the KPI Cafe is the thing that I do, which is part of the content you've seen from me. And when I really started getting out onto the like speaking circuit, I was at first like really afraid, like, if I do a speech and someone asks a question I don't know, I'm like, shit, was I just exposed as a fraud? Like, but the good thing is, like, you don't have to be. I mean, if you're trying to be the master of everything, you're the master of none. And I always kind of hate to use like cliches or hackneyed sayings, but that's the truth. Like, GMs have enough on their plate that they don't and shouldn't be the people that are the experts at digital. They should hire someone they can trust smarter than them that can justify it, like break it down, distill it to be like, here's why we're doing these things. And at the end of the day, like digital marketing is like any sort of expenditure, investment, or traditional marketing. It's like if the return of investment is there, it's not that hard to prove it, but it's hard to get to that point. Like implementing everything is hard to get there, but to really justify it, as long as you don't get too overly obsessed with attribution and everything, it's like our leads and conversions up, our sales up, then there's some sort of correlation. I know correlation doesn't mean causation, but there's got to be something there, right?
Well, I saw this, I'm not going to claim this. I saw it on an interview or something. But it was something to the effect of, the cool thing about that digital is that there's data that you can measure. Now, you can't get to the specific individual, which is what all dealers would want, right?
Yeah.
But you can definitely measure it, right? And I think that I think that gives us a leg up. I think that's also the area where we fall short, is that we're not measuring, and if what you don't measure, you don't manage, right? So
yeah.
Anyway, to kind of kick things off, I always start with a question about experience. Let us know a little bit about your background so we can, just let the audience know what you've been doing, man.
Yeah, I'll try to make this a bridge. I'm a writer by trade, so I'll try to keep it shorter than what I might normally do.
That transition makes total sense.
But after I started my career as a high school English teacher, I taught for a few years. I networked my way into working for the Department of Defense with a Department of Navy contractor.
I got to stop you there for a second.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation yesterday with a vendor from one of my clients, and dude, the same thing. High school teacher, and kind of ended up in the car business.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Oh no, you're all good. Whenever sequestration happened, that's probably around 2012, 2013. I was getting paid to basically do nothing. And I'm a person that I need to feel productive. Like I was literally like walking around the building spraying for bugs and stocking soda machines. I'm like, this ain't gonna cut it. So I left that, wound up at a 33 store auto group here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I was there for a while. Our marketing director believed in we were in the marketing department, which is, for a 33 store group is not in any single dealership, it's its own building. But our marketing director didn't want us sequestered off from the actual dealers. Like, how can we write content build stuff for car shoppers and for dealers if we don't know who they are? and what's going on. So we got sent out every week to a different dealership to, shadow test drives, salespeople, F&I, walk through the service bays, talk to, fixed ops directors. We did it. We sort of did it all. It was a very progressive group in terms of when he was the leader there. Some other opportunities arose. I went and worked for an advertising agency that worked with some global brands that, I kind of honed my copywriting chops and stuff. And then I wound up coming back forming Reunion Marketing. And Reunion Marketing has its name from the marketing director from that 33 store group is our CEO. And 5 of the 6 of us co-founders are all from that marketing department, from that automotive group.
Get out of here. Are you serious?
Yeah. So we all reunited. So that's where Reunion comes from.
Okay. Right on. That's dope, man. I love that story. So, dude, let's get into it because like I said, this is tying in directly into projects that I'm working on with my clients. And so I'm ready to learn, dude.
Yeah.
So
dive into it.
One of the things that I've been hearing a lot lately, and it's kind of driving me a little nuts, is the fact that VDP is no longer a measurement of effective digital presence. What?
Yeah.
Is that? Do you guys believe that? Like,
no. So what we do is we consider there micro conversions and macro conversions. There's little pieces along the way of a customer's journey that will give you indicators of where they're at in terms of like consideration phase, buying phase, things like that. The VDP definitely still plays a role. That's the inventory. We see through various digital channels, including social media, our social media strategy, we see a lot of re-engagement from sending people to specific VDPs. So I don't ascribe, and we don't ascribe to that philosophy that the VDP is a worthless piece. Now, do we go, to a dealer like VDP, your VDP views are up? Like that's like now we're really succeeding. No, but that's definitely a piece of the puzzle. Without getting eyes on inventory, you're not really satisfying consumer expectations. That's what they're there for. They don't come to your website to just look at your About Us page and scan around for a minute. They want to see vehicles that interest them.
Right. But so, okay, so and I'm going back to my Auto Trader, Cox Automotive days, but if the SRP is considered people driving by your virtual dealership, then the VDP to me is people shopping it, right?
Yeah.
And you can't measure, again, going to the point that I made earlier about the GM, right? Like the people that don't have the qualified personnel or whatever. I don't know. That doesn't sound that good. Like the people that can interpret the data and see if it's effective or if it's not, right? There's got to be some sort of a measurement, some way that we can measure it, so that we know that, hey, at least I'm getting something here, and it doesn't necessarily need to convert to quote unquote a sold unit, but at least there's engagement, right? Because if there's engagement, then the chances of you selling more cars, in my opinion, is going to go up, right?
Yeah.
Versus if you have low conversion from SRP to VDP and high bounce rates and low time on site and all those things.
If you look at it, it's like, majority of consumers don't take an action on websites. Like, they don't necessarily submit a form or click to call. But if you look at like you're saying, if you look at engagement, like if you set up a heat mapping recording on a VDP, or you're looking at other metrics in Google Analytics, you're seeing like time on site. They're scrolling through pictures. They're hovering over certain details. They're looking at it. They're there on that VDP for a minute and a half. It clearly shows that like something about that vehicle is really resonating with them. And maybe they don't click to call or submit a form, but just those metrics that didn't just get to that VDP and bounce, like it wasn't just landed 3 seconds gone. The fact that they're really engaging with the page and looking at things is indicative that VDP still serve a role, and and that's still an integral piece of trying to push them through the buyer's journey. So maybe that person went, you know what, that's the car I want. I'm just gonna go to. I have time tomorrow. I'm just gonna go to the dealership tomorrow, and then they just show up. So there's no way necessarily to measure that. I know there's like Google Store visits now that people are starting to use. Still a lot of I think a lot of development still needs to be sort of vetted out before that's really. I think everyone should really embrace is like 100%. Like this is the thing. Right. But that, like you said, like that engagement on site is a marker of interest.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I mean, I think that for me, that's still something that is, again, it's not that if your VDPs are, up, you're going to be selling more cars necessarily, but it does say that you have more engagement, and the sites that are delivering more of that, or not the sites, but the platforms that are delivering more of that,
Yeah.
then I would take a harder look at those before making any changes, right?
Yeah.
Versus one that are not, those would be the first ones that I would be like, okay, definitely got to move the spend from there.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's dive in a little bit deeper, right? So let's talk about Google Analytics. And I'm just going to tie it directly to a current project that I have right now. But I'm working with the current dealership right now that, how do I say it? On paper, it looks good. It looks like they're selling a lot of cars. They've been growing for the past, at least 3 or 4 years consecutively, year after year after year. But I just recently got access to their Google Analytics, and it is a mess, man. Like, if you look at the acquisition portion and you start looking at the channels and you dive deep into that, a lot of the traffic that they have is, it's kind of like this. It's like they gave their inventory to third-party sites, and that's all they're doing.
Okay.
There's no SEO, there's no SEM, there's nothing, there's no social. And so it's hard to have that conversation about all the things that they're missing, because like I said, on paper, they're successful, right?
Yeah.
What is your thought on that? Like, how can you kind of overcome that, kind of, in your opinion, using the data, like the Google Analytics information, and painting the picture? Because in my opinion, obviously they've been riding the wave just because of the market, but we all know that the things are contracting. And so those dealers that are not ready, they're going to suffer, man.
Yeah. One of the things is I understand why people see the value in third-party sites. I do. I mean, it is more exposure. The big thing that I like to impress upon people is, and I'll try to hit on a few things, I'll get to that data point in a second, is that, like on a third-party site, it's not just you. Your competitors are there. There's it's not like third-party sites are promising you like, hey, they're going to click on this paid search ad and it's only going to be your inventory on this page. It's not the case. Yeah. Their goal is to get as many people to look as many cars as possible, because then they can attribute sales or, interest or engagement from them to your dealership. Whereas your website, dealer's website, going back to VDPs, your website is the land of no competitors. When people are looking at vehicles and the SRPs on your website, your competitors are not in those SRPs. So focusing your efforts and really growing that SEO and SEM are vital, because that's the only way to get people to see just your inventory and your branding and not everyone else's too. The big thing about analytics too is that, like you said, it's a mess and it's not clean. And that's the truth. I mean, number one, what we hate is, as I'm speaking like as on behalf of our agency, when we talk to a dealer that is considering doing services with us, and an agency owns their analytics or their ads account, it just drives us nuts, because then you lose all that historical data, you lose all that historical relevance, all that information you've spent. Let's say you're with an agency for 2 years, you're starting all over again. So any agency that you go to sign up with that says, well, we're going to own your account, we'll give you access, cut that off right there. They're clearly, they don't have your best interests in mind. The other thing too is, like you said, looking at channels and stuff. Now, a big thing is, like, even if you're not an analytics expert, like if that DM wants to kind of dive in and just take a high level look at things like a geo, like look at things like source. What sources are driving traffic? What's the time on site? What's the bounce rate? What's the page path? You can look at those at a high level, and you don't have to dive into the details and go, oh, they looked at this one page for 30 seconds. That's not great. Oh, this person's on 4 pages for 5 minutes. That's good. We had a dealer a Chicago dealer, and it was probably, I'm not sure, I don't know how many months in we were in doing business with them, but they saw in analytics, just high level, traffic is down like overall 30%. What's up with that? And it was like, oh, let's look in the analytics. And so, we looked at like what geos are driving traffic. And the previous provider this is a Chicago dealer, driving traffic from New York, Miami, California. And it was like all of that, like we like by focusing SEO efforts and like focusing on geo, fixing directories, putting like the geo in the meta, building what we call model conversion pages, doing stuff that includes their geographic location. Traffic from New York, Miami, those other geos dropped precipitously, but all the geos that matter, like Naperville, and I mean, I can't remember all like sort of like the midtown names and different names around Chicago, but all the like nearby Chicago traffic was up. But because we dramatically decreased all that irrelevant traffic, it looked like they lost traffic year over year, and it was like, that's not the case.
Dude, okay, so that's a great point, man, because this is one of my biggest pet peeves of all times. Why do dealers think that because they're on the internet, they're a borderless type of a business? And it doesn't matter. Like, I'm not going to advertise in my backyard because people are going to come to me. I'm going to go all the way out to New York and all these places to get customers from there. Like, I do not understand that thought.
Yeah.
I don't know who came up with that concept. Yes, having the internet does allow your inventory to be seen everywhere. But should you be advertising and spending thousands of dollars or create strategies to get customers that are that far away from you, or should you be spending money on your backyard?
I mean, if you have a super rare car that like no one else has, promote the daylights out of it and get as much reach as you can. But I just don't see a 2020 Honda Civic buyer in Miami, Florida, driving to Connecticut to get their Honda Civic.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know, man. It just drives me insane. I've seen strategies like that where they're bypassing. I'm out in Vegas, but I've seen people like advertise all the way from in California or Salt Lake City, which are the closest. One end is 5 hours away, the other is 7. Like, why are you doing that, man?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm with you on that.
All right. So I wanted to talk about this concept of and again, I mean, back to the VDP value, right? So there was a study a few years ago. I think it was Cobalt. I'm not 100% sure, so I don't want to quote that. But there was a study that talked about the sweet spot of a VDP being around 30, right? After 30 VDPs, you get into this place of diminishing return. Under 30, you're not spending enough on that unit. And then what I see oftentimes when I'm doing my consultative conversations is I see kind of like all this effort promoting the cars that are naturally going to get activity, right? Because of the type of car, the color, mileage, all that stuff. Yeah. And the cars that they should be spending the money, right? That they should be creating strategies for, they're not doing that. Why do you think that is? Is it just because it's the easiest thing? Is it lack of education? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
So I think if they're working with an agency that is only promoting those certain types of vehicles that will sell well in that market, then I think that agency is doing that intentionally to go, oh, look, you sold this many new cars this month, but it's like, those are the cars they probably would have sold that month anyway. So looking at like that historical relevance of sales month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year. So I think there's that unfortunate stigma of being a snake oil salesman as a digital marketing agency because of people taking advantage of dealers like that sort of, especially early on, didn't know better. But I think that the important thing is that, focusing on what your goals are. So I think it might be a lack of communicating the goals. So, are things being cascaded down to the salespeople, to your marketing partners of like, what are the vehicles that aren't getting that play that really need that extra support and bolster? Is that really being, communicated to the right people to make sure those efforts are being implemented? So I'm not saying that all agencies doing that one strategy, pushing those popular cars, are like nefarious activities, but maybe they just don't know what the dealership really wanted because that wasn't part of the monthly or weekly call that they have. So I think it's, to answer your question after long story short, right, is that one, it just comes down to making sure there's clear communication on goals and it's cascaded to the right people so that everyone's working towards that same objective.
But so you agree that, we should be, in a lot of the cases, we should be doing the reverse of what we're doing, where we're spending all this effort on those cars that are going to move naturally and kind of focus on those units that we're going to have issues with because of the type of cars, low scarcity, that sort of thing?
So I think it really comes down to, more than anything, like what is the market dictating? Like, where's the surge volume? And one, making sure you have enough, even for the cars that will move probably anyway, keeping that days on the lot less by, so allocating enough budget to just making sure people know you have that inventory.
Right.
I mean, people will eventually find it, but there should be enough of a presence even for those cars to just make sure that, because your competitor's likely going to be there. So it's really being smart about how you allocate your budget. Those cars just don't deserve zero budget, but those other vehicles, and like what does search volume demand? What are people really searching for in your market? What are ways that you can capitalize on, even if it's lower search volume, to connect with those buyers? What are the dealership's goals? So there's a number of variables. But yeah, I agree. I think that your strategy should be around the vehicles that don't move as well. You should really put an emphasis there, but don't ignore inventory that even doesn't actually sell well. But because you want to remain competitive no matter what. Because whether it's third-party site or other local competitors and dealerships, to just like, whenever I hear people go, well, just cut your paid search spend. It's like, okay, but that dealership that's 5 miles down the street, they're not. So fuck with that, so it's just that sort of mentality, is just being smart in how much resources and money you allocate towards all those vehicles.
Yeah. Or give up control of your inventory. Cause to me, that's the biggest piece when we do those things, when we neglect SEO, SEM, social media, we're really just giving control of our inventory to somebody else. It doesn't have, they have a one-track objective, right? So, and I agree. Look, I think you should be on as many third-party sites as you possibly can, but I think that you should let your inventory do the talking, right?
Oh yeah, your cars are the stars. So yeah, absolutely.
Sure. So kind of piggybacking on that thought, I just got to ask the question, man, because I still see it. 2019, spending $20,000 a month, $10,000-15,000 a month on third-party sites versus taking that budget and creating a long-term and a short-term strategy with digital, whether it be SEO, SEM, social media, or a combination of those. Is that still something that makes sense? Or you could be doing a lot more with that money if you, kind of use it yourself internally?
I think there are definitely partnering with the right person to walk through the metrics and cut through the crap that a lot of third-party sites can feed you. I think that requires a lot of sort of analysis to really see which third-party sites are delivering for you, and then cutting out the rest. It's not a one-size-fits-all. I can't say any one particular third-party site's going to work best. There's so many variables. I mean, we just can't. I'm not just going to say, like, when people ask questions like, oh, does running a paid Facebook campaign require, which I hire one person or two people for that? I'm not going to. I'd be disingenuous if I give you a specific answer. What I can say is, I think by cutting a significant portion of those third-party sites and allocating that towards smart social, smart paid search, smart SEO, and then just also internally saving that money, just saving those costs, I think will go a lot farther than just trying to be as prevalent and sort of ubiquitous in all those sites as possible. I really think a lot of dealers can scale back their presence and spending on those sites and smartly invest that with their own digital marketing and see a nice return on investment on that.
So let me share something with you really quick. High level strategy. I mean, it's detailed, but I'll give you the cliff notes of it and just kind of get your take. Because I have an example, and I'm not going to name any names, but I took a dealership that was spending about $45,000 a month in third-party sites. So that's a lot of money. That's close to $500,000 or maybe more than $500,000 a year. And I cut that down to $5,000 on social, from 45 to 5,000, and they got more activity. So here's kind of the strategy. So I tiered it up. So and it wasn't just sales; it was service focused as well. So new car, used car, and service. For service, I started creating content that I posted on YouTube and Facebook that was added value content, like how to change your spare tire, how to change your windshield, your wipers, how to check your coolant. These short little videos, and I would post them on a certain time every week. And then I would do Facebook ads with those for video tracking. And the people that would engage with that ad, I'd serve them up a service offer.
Yeah.
$10, $20 off an oil change or something to that effect. For new car, I did just that. Like we were talking about earlier, I went into their Google Analytics. I figured out those vehicles that were under 30 VDPs, created content for those specific vehicles, like we took video of like a walk around, and then did a test drive, and then served those up on ads, and then retarget those customers that either went to that VDP or that engaged with that content, and serve them up a $500, sometimes $1,000 trade-in offer. And then for used cars, I did the exact same thing, and I was retargeting just from Facebook and Instagram, retargeting customers that would consume that content, serve them an ad, and it was 100 times more effective than what they were doing with third-party sites. And it's crazy that you go from almost $50,000 a month to $5,000, and they got better conversion, better activity. It was more relatable. It was more engaging. Have you seen those types of things? I mean, do you think that dealers really understand the power of social and are really utilizing for what it is?
I don't. And it's funny you asked that, because yesterday I spoke at the North Carolina Automobile Dealers Association Executive Forum, and social media is what I talked about. I don't think dealers are really seeing the effectiveness, the efficacy of social media. So it's funny, what you're talking about is like retargeting is the cheapest form of marketing, like reinforcing that messaging. It's pennies on the dollar, and it's pennies on the tens of dollars compared to those third-party sites. I mean, it's just, so I love that strategy of serving up that ad, that video, retargeting them with stuff that's relevant to what they do or what they've seen, what they've engaged with. A lot of dealers, what I hate is, unfortunately, is that so many dealers and so many agencies, and I keep referring to this phrase, one size fits all. It's like they have this static image of a stock photo from, an OEM site. And it's like, are you interested in this, 2020 Honda Civic? I'll keep going with that since I already mentioned it earlier. And it's like, they're spending all this money on this single ad about this single vehicle in this single color with the same copy. You're spending this money. It's like, that's not all of your shoppers are the shopper. And then, whenever you create all these different ads and you're not really being strategic about your campaigns and your ad sets, then Facebook can't fully and strategically, with its machine learning, adjust bidding and allocate money and really, put the money towards the best performing, ads, because it's so disjointed. The message is so disjointed. So what we focus on, we believe that what's really important for dealers is, and I love that you were talking about like doing a video about a specific vehicle and retarget with VDPs and stuff. That's the crux of what we think is important about Facebook, and also with fix up. So I'm talking about vehicles right now, but don't ignore your parts and service too, of course. But it's like the best thing to do is it's variety, messaging, and your actual inventory. Give them a variety of vehicles through carousel ads. That's actual inventory being fed through. That's like through Facebook's API. Your truck buyers and your sedan buyers, and then your SUV buyer, your Tacoma buyer probably has different interest than your Tundra buyer. So by understanding that you have these different audiences and building out these different audiences and speaking to them specifically through your ad copy, and then using carousel ads to give them options of vehicles. So it's not just like that one white 2020 Honda Civic. There's a white 2020 Honda Civic, a certain trim level. Then there's a red one and a blue one. And so you give them all the options of feeding through your actual inventory to this ad. So you're trying to speak to individuals both through the copy and through the actual images, because of course, the car business is a visual business, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, and then, as you feed through, and what's great about at Facebook, as long as you're refreshing that inventory through that API, if a car sells, it's no longer in that carousel ad, it's replenished. So you refresh it, and you're always so people are never clicking on something that takes them to a 404 or takes them to a random specials page where then they have to go through, filters and, filter it down and then click through to a VDP. You're delivering them the actual inventory that interests them. Because every click that you force people to take is a chance for them to bounce off your site. Remove the friction. And by, delivering like you did, delivering that very specific content related to their needs, and then sending them sending them to a page and retargeting them with content that's relevant, you're removing that friction from the journey of them getting to where they want to be.
Right. No, I totally, like I said, I mean, I just, to me, social media is something that we just have to get way, way better at, man, because it's extremely powerful.
Yeah, I mean, we looked at dealers when they implement that sort of strategy. I mean, dealers really can, depending on the brand they represent, can create up to 50 different ads and audiences. I mean, it's crazy, with details, with price, without price, just focusing on details, going down to the model level, serving up all of a certain segment of vehicle, up to 50 different ads. And when dealers are doing this, I mean, like you were just talking about, like the metrics that they see, like we're talking about 10 to 15%, 10 to 15 cents cost per click. WordStream in 2019 said the average cost per click for a Facebook ad and out of retail is $2.24. These dealers are seeing 2.5 to 4.5% click-through rate from these Facebook ads. WordStream said the average is 0.8%. So clearly something's broken with how car dealers are approaching social media, specifically Facebook.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, man. Side note, I love how I got like super obvious.
You need to like have a big cherry spin around and then it kind of turn the face up.
So yeah, dude. Okay, so what about let's talk about SEO and let's talk about SEM, right? Because to me that's part of the strategy. But one of the things that, dude, it frustrates me is that we're having these conversations, or I'm having these conversations anyway. I'm sure you guys are too, about SEM in particular, where dealers are referring to their digital strategy as SEM only. That's all they talk about, pay-per-click. But we don't talk about the display. We don't talk about the SEO. It's like it's not even a consideration. Are you running into those situations? If so, why do you think that is? And most importantly, what can we, put down here for any decision maker that's listening so that they can really consider what an effective strategy looks like when we're talking digital? It's not just pay-per-click. It's a component of it, but it's not full strategy.
We encounter the opposite. It's why do we have to do SEM with pay-per-click if we're doing well SEO and organically? So I'll try to address both of those things. It's, if you're not focusing, if you don't have a good SEO strategy in place, then you're relying fully on a pay-to-play platform.
Right.
So if people aren't bidding on certain terms and their Google search results being delivered to car shoppers, and there's really no competition bidding on those keywords and queries, or the bidding is low and there's not much competition, why wouldn't you focus on the organic presence? So it comes down to a matter of competition and really like what.
Just to kind of.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Clarify here really quick. Organic, long-term success strategy.
Yeah.
SEM, short-term strategy.
Yeah.
You're just getting that customer intent right then in the moment, but organically should be your long-term objective, right? I mean, would you agree with that?
100%. Yes. Yeah. I mean, really, I think you should really have a solid it's coupled. There's synergy between the two services. There really is. In between understanding like what keywords you need to bid on, what keywords you don't. But without like a solid SEO foundation, without a strong natural organic digital presence, you're just not going to do well. You're going to have to spend more on those pay-per-clicks because you're not going to be ranking in the top organic spots. So you're paying to be in one of the top 3 spots, absolute top impression share for paid search. But then if you're not focusing on SEO, you literally are occupying like 1/10 of all of what shows up on a search results page. So if you're just focusing solely on that, you're giving your competition that much more real estate in the organic SERPs. And when you fail to deliver on that for yourself, you're missing out on all those clicks because among the organic spots, like the top 3 spots get like 40 to 60% of the clicks, something absurd like that. And like with the number 1 spot of that gets like 2/3 of those clicks. So it's like you want to be there organically, and then you want to strategically be there for the now buyers, for the people like you just said, for the people like right now they're really they're going to make that purchase. You want to be there for them too. But like you said, without that long-term solid foundation, a dealer's just not going to win on one service alone, especially SEM.
Where did we go wrong in SEM in your opinion? Because that's right. You're right there. I mean, I've also heard those comments too, like, or dealers coming off completely because they were spending 10, 20 plus thousand, which by the way, I mean, You know, I just got to say here, I hate when we refer to this industry as behind when it comes to digital, dude, because the dealers are on it, man. Like they'll spend money on anything and everything. It's the implementation and the follow up where I think we're lacking. But dude, they've embraced this thing and they've you know, committed with money. But a lot of them do fail at it, man. Why is that?
Yeah, just real quick to your point, people that say automotive retail is behind on digital has not spent a single second in any other industry. I talked to, just real quick anecdote. Reached out to this dentist, and you know, dentist, smart person, you know, clearly no dummy. Her website was one page with a single paragraph, no like separation of paragraphs, no like a run-on sentence you had to scroll through on desktop. She's like, no, I think my website's good. You know, yeah. we had a chiropractor go, oh, you guys do the Google. Yeah, we do the Google. Yes, sir. That's what we do. So yeah, I have equal frustration.
It's getting kind of weird, man. With the give me a second.
It gets more ominous and ominous. Yeah.
There we go.
Now we can see you.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think partially where people went wrong is, and this is not on dealers, but as the industry as a whole, and more on vendors than anything, is what I think what really kind of drives people away is how do I want to say this? Costs can get out of control because so many agencies are on a commission-based model.
Mm-hmm.
They make decisions because they know they can make more money off the dealer. And so I think then dealers then get jaded about paid search because they've encountered these people, or you know, they see these inflated costs and then they go, well, if I didn't need to be spending this much because this agency was telling me that, do I really need to spend even this much? So I think like just that whole discrepancy and that sort of jadedness is kind of what drives people away. So I think, you know, that whole commission model really kind of set the wrong tone in automotive retail for paid search. I think that's fundamentally where things went wrong, because then people weren't trusting the decision makers on that digital side because, you know, does this person really have my best interests at heart? So we always recommend to dealers, whether they want to work with us or someone else, ask them, are they flat rate or commission based? Because I really think that was a fundamental issue.
So you think that flat rate?
Yeah, because I think vendors are more, and this is my opinion, I think then they're more honest to make decisions on your behalf because how much you spend doesn't affect how much they make from your service.
Right.
You know, and a big thing with paid search is quality score. You know, I think a lot of dealers don't really know, and this is, again, if you're that GM, you don't have to be a digital marketing guru to understand it. Quality score is a score assigned to every single keyword that you're bidding on. Right. And, you know, quality score is, you know, if you have a quality score of 6, and that's based on a couple of factors. It's based on your click-through rate. Is the ad copy relevant? Is the landing page you send them to relevant? What's your historical count performance? You know, there's a number of factors that sort of weigh in there. But like someone with a quality score of 6 pays half as much. You know, someone with an ad of a quality score of 6 pays twice as much as someone, or I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. An ad with a quality score of 6 is paying half as much as someone with an ad with a quality score of 3. So vice versa, a quality score of 3 is paying twice as much as someone with an ad with a quality score of 6. And I think there's not been enough industry communication about just how important that plays and how much dealers are spending for their advertising. Because Google, as many faults as they have, they do. I mean, that quality score helps it. They want to deliver ads that are relevant to consumers, because if they're not delivering relevant content, they're going to go to another search engine. Right. I think quality score helps keep everyone accountable to serving up that relevant content, and then Google rewards you for it.
Yeah. No, and I think just to kind of develop that a little bit, I think that the Google's objective is to keep them there permanently. So be careful.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So no, dude, I totally agree, man. But for me anyway, I feel like SEM, SEO, those things are a lot more valuable. And I'll just go, you know, I'm straight up and say it, go on the record on this. But I think that is the the more effective way to go, because it gives me control. And I loved what you said earlier about like, there's no competition on my website. It's my inventory. And I have control, and I can tell that story however I want to tell it.
Yeah.
And to the people that make the most sense. Like, I don't have to talk to people in New York, and I don't have to talk to people in California and Salt Lake if they're not in my backyard. Because ultimately those are not the people that can make it. That's not the smallest group of people that I can make an impact with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but yeah, man. Okay. So, going back to Google Analytics, because I think that's a big part that we're missing by not understanding it and spending time there. Again, I go back to my motto: what you don't measure doesn't get managed, right?
Yeah.
But it is complex for the person that hasn't spent any time there, that has no training, that hasn't seen that. And I wouldn't say training, because you can go on Google really and spend a couple of hours or a couple of days looking at some videos and things of that nature. And you're not going to be proficient at it, but you can kind of understand it and at least take a look, right?
Absolutely.
What would you say for those who want to, kind of get going and look at it, but maybe are hesitant, or they've gone into their GA accounts and they've been like, whoa, what are, from the dealership perspective, what is the one area that you would say, if nothing else, spend time here, maybe do some tutorials online about this section about Google Analytics, because this information is going to be valuable to you?
It's tough to narrow it down. A good starting place, I think, would be the acquisitions tab.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Because the conversions is important, but you don't want to focus purely on acquisition and getting traffic and not how you're converting it. But if you're not getting the right kind of traffic, if you're not acquiring the right online shoppers, then you're not going to get the conversions. Right. Really, start under acquisitions tab, and then just start toying around with, like I said earlier, like, with the geos, the source medium. Everything's laid out pretty well. When you look at like source medium, it's going to say like Facebook organic. Facebook, and they organically came from Facebook. They went on your Facebook page, saw a post, and wound up in your web. Clicked through to your website. Whereas like Facebook paid or sponsored. So looking at like those different traffic sources, and I think that's sort of the easiest way to kind of look at the overall layout. And so, just like I said, starting in that acquisitions tab, just look around and make sure that things you're seeing make sense. And then, like, as you have those sort of default sort of metrics showing up, like time on site, learn, like if you go on acquisitions, just click around acquisitions. As you click around and you don't know like what a certain column means, look it up real quick. Open a tab, Google it, come back in analytics and go, okay, this marker means X, Y, Z, and if I'm not meeting these numbers, then that means we have a problem here, because you can find that information.
Right on. I love that, man. That's exactly what I was thinking. Because the acquisition is going to tell you where your traffic's coming from, right? And it's going to break it down by referral, which is going to be people that are referring to your site, direct, if people are kind of typing your name in, organic, and all those things. So, dude, it's been awesome to have this conversation with you. I want to give you a little bit of time to talk about Reunion Marketing. I've been hearing a lot of good things from you guys, from obviously our connections on LinkedIn, but also dealers that use you guys. So I definitely want to make sure that you guys get a chance to kind of tell us all how we can get in touch with you and make sure that we're following your content. But before that, I wanted to kind of ask you one last question here, which is about social media, right? And that question is, give us a tip, man, something that we can do, not to go in there and try and be like, oh, we're going to do this ourselves sort of a deal, but rather to see the power of social media and the impact that can have. Because I'm telling you, dude, I mean, it's so valuable. And like I said, I mean, I go back to that example from 45,000 a month to 5,000, better increase in sales, better activity. It blew my mind.
What I'll do is this, and it's not exactly what you asked me to do. And it's, because I can talk about numbers all day. I can tell you about what these dealers are achieving. I can tell you about how we're seeing these correlations between that and more traffic in the dealership. That's me just saying it. What I think that dealers can really see the power of Facebook is going into, it's called the Facebook ad library. Google it. Just open up a Google tab, type in Facebook ad library. It'll open up. Right now, defaults, I believe, to politics. There's a little tab to the left of that says all. All you need to do, there's a search bar. Just start typing in companies. Look at what companies are doing right now. Like Macy's, you go on Macy's, you're going to scroll through about 250 different ads. You know, go to the Home Depot, you're going to see about 300 ads. Go to any Nike, any major retailer, Disney, you're going to see hundreds of ads. Then look up yourself. What ads are you running? Are you running 1, 3, 5? Look at your competitors. So not only can you use this Facebook ad library to see what really is the potential by looking at these major retailers. And I'm not one of those guys that says, in this day and age, like, you have to be Amazon, be Macy's, be the Home Depot. No, you're a car dealer. You're not Macy's. But you can learn from what they're doing because they, just like a car dealer, have online shoppers, have tons of inventory they need to push. There are similarities in retail as a whole that you can learn from. So first, Google those major retailers, look at all the different things they're doing and the way that they're saying it. Then look at yourself and look at your competitors and how are you positioned in your market to really capitalize on that platform.
Dude, I love it. That's awesome. Yeah, for sure. All right, man. So we're getting close to that time. There's one question I ask everybody that comes on the show, but before we get there, tell us about Reunion Marketing. How can we get in touch with you? I know you guys do demos and things of that nature. So let us know all that information. And then we're going to, if it's cool with you, if it's okay with you, we're going to put it on the show notes so people can reach out and you know.
Yeah, definitely. First, I want to thank you for the time tonight. I enjoyed jamming with you here. Yeah, a real good time hearing some insights back from you and everything. But yeah, so Reunion Marketing, just to give you the background, like I said, I gave you the kind of story in the beginning when I was talking about my history. You know, we aren't just some outsiders that have never experienced the car business. Our CEO was in the car business for about 12 years, working his way up. You know, we did, when we were in that marketing department in the few years I was there, so I can't boast, a decade in the car business. I was just at that marketing department a few years, but in those few years I was there, increased revenue of this group from about 800 million to like 1.4 billion. And that was focusing on the strategies, SEO, SEM, and partly social media, not so much social media back then. So our bread and butter when we started was SEO. I truly believe we get it as good as anybody out there. So we focus in, we do SEO, SEM, and we launched a great social media product we call Intelligent Social. And I kind of referred to it earlier where it's talking about ad variety, up to 50 ads, tailored messaging, actual inventory in your ads. And we do demos. We also have a thing where we won't work with dealers that are in too close a proximity to each other because we feel like that's disingenuous if we're implementing strategies for your competitors and for you. We took our frustrations being on the dealer side and tried not to replicate that, and do the things we thought were the evils back then. But yeah, so we do demos. It's about 30 minutes of your time. We dive into the analytics. We dive into what we can do and how we can help. My personal email is Dane, D-A-N-E, @reunionmarketing.com. We have a YouTube channel. I do the KPI Cafe. Right now I'm in between seasons on that, but it's weekly. What I do is we have a common questions log from our current clients and our prospects, and I aggregate and I look at what our dealers asking the most about, and that's what I sort of base those episodes on. Then I add in some bonus episodes, try to bring some people on, and I think I see a future guest I'd like to have on if you'd be so gracious to join me. But yeah, the KPI Cafe. But yeah, Dane at Reunion Marketing. If you want to set up a demo, you can email me or just email sales@Reunion Marketing, and whether it's me or one of our salespeople, we'll definitely get back to you quickly.
Yeah, and I want to invite everybody to go check out KPI Cafe. I've used it myself. Lots of good information, and it's relevant, and it's information that makes sense. Because there's a lot of information out there, but some of the information isn't really good information. So you got to be able to distinguish. And this dude knows his stuff. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely make sure to check it out. All right. So there's one question. Oh, and by the way, we're going to put everything in the show notes too. So, if you don't get a chance to write everything down here, go to the show notes. Everything will be in there. So one question we ask everybody that comes on the show, and that question is, where do you see the automotive industry headed in the next 5 years and why?
Next 5 years. I think in the next 5 years, I don't believe in a lot of like the shiny objects. I think there'll be some things that might go by the wayside. I think there'll be more of a focus on social, and we'll be getting closer to more like what is being called as digital retailing. I think there'll be some new tools out there that will continue to help the consumer process be more online. I don't want to, over conjecture, but I think dealers will have new tools to really capitalize on these shopping behaviors and I think because dealers have quickly become more progressive in digital marketing, I think now that they realize the value of it, they're going to be better able to discern what is a shiny object and what's going to have longevity. And there will be new tools that will continue to help work towards that digital retailing. And, we'll get further along that process for online consumers. But I don't want to, overstate any sort of conjecture here. But
yeah, no, I mean, nobody knows, right? But it's good to get that perspective. And I agree. I think that there's the digital retailing, not in the way that it sits today, but I do think that it's going to play a role for sure. If nothing else, dude, I mean, the generation that's coming behind us is everything's online, dude, Amazon, right? And they're used to buying things that way. So the next logical step is vehicles. I can't wrap my hand around that concept because for me, I still got to test drive it. And if I'm spending that kind of money and then I have to service it. So, but you got to be open-minded to anything. You can't be,
I don't even purchase jeans fully online because I'm like, they're going to show up and they're not going to fit. There's going to be some sort of thing wrong with it. I'm not going to like it somehow. So I don't even, let alone a vehicle. So I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I would never buy a car purely online ever.
Yeah. So, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Dude, this has been a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is awesome. I just loved your perspective. I think that we align in a lot of ways, and it's just great to have that conversation and be able to hopefully share some insights that people can take back and implement in their day to day. So
yeah, I hope I did. Thank you very much for having me on today.
Yeah. So that's all the time we have for today, folks. Please make sure to share this podcast, share this episode with anybody that can benefit from this information so that they can take it back to the dealership, use it, and just, use it to help themselves reach their objectives. That's all the time we have for today, folks. And as usual, we'll talk later.